So good afternoon and welcome to this edition of Embodied Memories, Narratives of African Diasporic Religious Communities. I am your host and your resident researcher, Manbo Dr. Kahdeidra Monét Martin, and I am so thrilled, and honored that we have Manbo Dr. Charlene Désir with us today to talk to us about her faith and the role of faith in her life. So thank you, very warm welcome to you, Manbo Dr. Désir, and we look forward to learning more about you.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. So first, to begin, can you please tell us your full name and what you prefer to be called?
Okay, I guess my full professional name is Manbo Dr. Charlene Désir. Most of my students call me Dr. Désir. My friends, my close spiritual friends call me Manbo. You know, my family call me Charlene.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you prefer to be called during this interview?
Okay, wow. Now I have a choice.
Yes. The choice was always there.
Oh my God. You're my sister friend. I mean, you could call me Manbo.
Manbo. Yes. You know, I love you're my sister, my Manbo doctor. Okay. And what pronouns do you use, Manbo?
You know, it's funny, like, you know, back in the day, I used to use we and us. And people would be like, but now people are using we. So I would say she and we and us.
Okay, she, we, and us. And it, you know, that's interesting because I noted that in Creole, right, that second person plural is often used.
Yeah.
You know, interchangeably with the first person plural, right?
Yes, it does. Yeah, I guess it's like a Creole translation because it's very different, and it's not even you know, feminine or masculine, like Lee. You know, a masculine can use that, a feminine, non-binary, like anyone can use Lee.
Exactly, right? It's so interesting, right? How language can influence our perceptions of gender, right? Because definitely there's a lot of non-binariness in the language itself, right? In Creole.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm just going to ask you, you know, just formally, do you agree to be a part of this research study?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. And which city do you live in currently?
Currently, I live in Davie, Florida. So I grew up in Boston, but I'm a professor in South Florida in the Davie area.
Wonderful. And when did you move there?
I graduated with my doctoral degree in 2006, and 2 weeks later, I drove to Florida with my 4-year-old son.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. I can't wait to learn more about him. I know he's no longer 4.
He'll be 21.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
He's
21 years old. Beautiful age.
In a few months. Yep.
What an auspicious age, huh?
I know what I was doing at 21. Woo.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, we're going to talk more about him. So is there anything that you'd like to ask me before we get started?
Well, I mean, I'm curious, you know, in terms of your passion around this topic, you know, because you're also a Manbo doctor, researcher extraordinaire. So I just want to know, you know, why the passion and commitment, you know, to approaching this in this way.
Thank you for that question. I'm a storyteller at heart. I'm a writer at heart. I'm a storyteller. And so there was an opportunity that presented itself I applied for this fellowship, you know, to do a community stories. It was a community stories fellowship with the Crossroads Project, housed at Princeton University, funded by the Henry Luce Foundation. And I decided, you know, since I'm here in the Bay Area, in coordination with some other scholar activists out here and also practitioners of various African diasporic religious communities, we wanted to do a project that documented the histories of people from these various traditions in the Bay Area. Much of the research and, even, the public knowledge about practitioners of African diasporic religious traditions like Vodou, like Ocha, like different Congo-based traditions is focused on Florida, where you are, or in New York, right? And so there was a sense that the stories, right, these life histories, these rich narratives out here in the Bay in California that they haven't been told yet. So that's what started my interest in this broader Embodied Memories project. And so, of course, I'm working on this project in the Bay Area, but I'm also working on this project more broadly for wherever practitioners of African diasporic religious traditions reside, right? And so I'm really happy that you're a part of this broader project. Yeah.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my mission. And so now let's talk a little bit about you. You mentioned that you're from Boston. What year were you born and where were you born?
Oh man, tell my age. I was born in 1973, and I was born in Haiti.
Oh.
My mom was actually in Haiti at the time, and I came early. So yeah, I was born in Haiti, but I migrated to the US. I think I was about 3 years old, stayed there, a little bit with my grandmother, and actually migrated to the US with my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, oh my goodness, that's so fast. So after she had you, did your mom go back to the US?
Eventually, she actually wound up staying in Haiti for a little bit. So she just decided, okay, I had another older brother. She decided well, let me just stay home for a little bit and adjust. And my grandfather had applied for my grandmother because he was in the US and she had an opportunity to travel back. And she said she was going to go with me, and she did.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. I love that. That's so beautiful, the extended family. Yeah. Right. And so you ended up, you were supposed to be, look at you're supposed to be like me. You're supposed to have been born in the US, but your spirit said no. We want her born on Haitian soil. Look at that.
No, definitely.
That's awesome. And so then when you came to the US, where did you first come to? What state, what city?
So my aunt and my grandfather, they were in Boston, Massachusetts. So because there was an influx of folks migrating to New York, because I came in the early 70s. My family on my maternal side started migrating in the 60s.
Okay.
Boston. So I think some people decided to go to Boston because New York was getting saturated. So we ended up in Boston.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you were in Boston as a part of this burgeoning Haitian American community there. And then let's talk about faith now. So you were there in this cultural community. And what faith community did you grow up in Boston?
Well, my family was Catholic. And at the time, the majority of folks, there was a small growing Haitian population. So there was one main Catholic church, and the priest was a liberation theologist. He really was involved in the political scene that was happening in Haiti. That was some of the preaching that was going on. Wow. And a lot of the families knew each other, but at the same time, my grandmother, she also revered ancestors. Which is interesting because her mom died in childbirth and gave birth to triplets. And the family took the two boys, and my grandmother was raised with the nuns. And then at the time, in that area in Haiti, it was only white nuns. So she and as when she was coming in awareness, I think in her teens, she wanted to honor her ancestors. So I also grew up in a house with a grandmother that gave homage and reverence to ancestors, as well as being, super Catholic.
Right. Kind of familiar, kind of typical, right? The Haitian ontology.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that about you. See, we're friends. I didn't know that. So your grandmother's a triplet.
Yes, a
Wow,
boy.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah, 2 boys and a girl. Yeah.
Whoa. And at that time,
Yeah.
because triplets are rare now, but at that time.
Yeah, at that time. And, the stories that the mom went into labor at a local church and like she gave birth and then she transitioned right after, and the 3 children survived. So,
Wow.
yeah, they survived. And it's interesting because like she knew her brothers, small community. So she knew her brothers. And one of them, when he became of age, he moved to the DR. And they're fair skinned. So like, I have no idea. I probably have a lineage in DR. And the other brother stayed in the area. He had 2 sons. He got married. And I'm very close with his lineage.
Okay.
My cousins. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, such a rich, intricate history here of migration. And family and migration. And so here you are, you're growing up in Boston, born in Haiti, with this grandmother who shepherded you to the US, who kind of midwifed you, right? During that journey, that crossing, who's a triplet, Masa Trois, who's special and magical in her own right, with the Catholic upbringing and also the veneration, ancestral veneration. So taking a step back now and thinking about, from that upbringing and also their present, what are the various communities or groups that you would say that you're a part of?
Yeah, well, right now, and I split the different worlds. I mean, I think like, in terms of religiously, I'm part of Société Nagu, which is a Vodouizan community where I was initiated in Jacmel. They have a house in Jacmel and a house in Mattapan, Mass, in Boston, Mass. I'm also academically involved in the Haitian Studies Association. I was first year in college. So I walked that group for 31 years.
Oh, wow.
And recently I got a service award, which was really nice. And I also am the co-vice.
Congratulations. I saw that online. Yes, Manbo.
I'm also a co-vice president of COSAMBA, which is an academic organization, the study of Haitian Vodou and Pan-African religions. And I actually started a nonprofit during the 2010 earthquake. I decided that I wanted an organization of myself, not my academic organization, but an organization of service. So I started a nonprofit called the Empowerment Network 10 Global. And pretty much I've done a lot of work looking at psychosocial and spiritual curriculum for Haitian youth and helping women, start over again. We even have a group that we work with Haitian and Caribbean LGBTQ populations. We have a Haitian mental health think tank looking at mental wellness in the Pan-African community. So we do a lot of these different projects. So so those are my communities.
Wow. This is fantastic. Right. So you mentioned, right, like a lot of these are, like established, like they're communities, of course, and then they're also, kind of like these institutions, they're organizations. Now, if you had to now think kind of more broadly, right, of the different groups that you are part of, right, that you represent, I'm going to ask you that question again, right? Like how would you identify?
I mean, firstly, I'm a Black woman. So I'm definitely committed to Pan-African alliances in the US and around the world. I'm, an academic, so I'm also interested in knowledge building, communities of knowledge building, and having those kind of populations. I am in that spectrum of sexuality. So I'm in that spectrum of, the androgynous folks. And so, I'm a mother. I'm part of that community of mothering.
Yes.
And so I'm a learner. So I'm a perpetual learner that wants to build knowledge and see diverse knowledge in other people that is a reflection of me.
Oh, right. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Right. You're a learner, perpetual knowledge building. And I have an idea what you may say, but which of these groups are most important to you?
I think it's being in a Pan-African, it's really being Pan-African and being of Haitian descent, that spectrum. I think that's my identity. That's my core essence of who I am. I come from a community that really took the vibration of what was happening in the Americas and South America, North America. And with that impetus, created the Haitian Revolution.
Right.
So it was the first acknowledgement of a Pan-African mobilization. And that's really core to me, because my essence is I'm of liberation. I am liberation. Liberation. So the core essence of who I am is this understanding that I come from a Pan-African epistemology called Vodou that emerged in the context of the most brutal, involvement on this planet in slavery of the kidnapped Africans. So, we never saw ourselves as slaves. We saw ourselves as sacred vessels. And the notion of liberation was passed down hundreds of years, almost 300 years, that I am free. I'm a fighter. I'm a liberator. And so that consciousness means more to me than anything, because it's the grounding of my foundation for everything else.
I hear you. Right. You are liberation. I am.
I am.
Right. I am consciousness.
I am
consciousness of I am.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I see your I am.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, sis. Yeah, for sure. I see you living that. And so now that kind of leads us into, right, that, so it's what I hear you saying is that, what's more important to you, what's most important to you is that Pan-African consciousness.
Absolutely.
Like you're really you talk about the core of you, the consciousness, the energy, right? Yeah. That you see, is in direct relationship too, right? That's a part, and your Haitian, being of Haitian descent, your Haitian identity, right, is a part of that vibration, right? It's a part of that essence. Yes. And so I want to talk to you, I wanted you to talk to us rather more about your involvement in your current faith community. You mentioned that you're a member of Société Nago. So talk to us about your involvement in your current faith community. How did you become introduced to this community? How did you become introduced to, to kind of formally initiating in Vodou to begin with? What attracted you to it? How did you start out on that path?
Well, when I started college, that process, I was 17 and my grandmother had just passed away. So that's my anchor. She was my spiritual anchor. And, I progressed in school, and this was the first time I was experienced overt racism. Okay. I remember an instructor writing on my paper that it was militant and I should write in rap lyrics. And so it was just all of these. And then, so I just decided that, well, how am I going to form what I want to be or how I want to be? And I took a Black psychology class and I was took. And so I started on this psychological healing process, and I ended up, eventually pursuing my doctorate at Harvard University. And I wanted to study Haitian children and their psychosocial academic development. And going to the library, I found books and papers and pamphlets and videos and documents on Haitian Vodou. And I was just like, wow, they're studying me, but I'm not studying myself. So, I mean, and honestly, for the next 18 years, I began to study myself in the context of a Vodou lens. And along the path, I met a lot of different elders that came to speak to me. I started doing drawings that I didn't understand that depicted, Vodou epistemology and the lois, the orishas. And I had to be in conversation with elders that were respectful of Vodou and what it meant. And I was lucky enough to have been in these academic associations where there were elders who were academically involved in the study of this practice and consciousness. So it was really important. And I have, one of my sisters, Dr. Daniels, we started talking about what initiation means as academics. And we always committed that we would initiate together. And like as spirit intervened, I met my spiritual mother, who is from the town that I grew up in, Mattapan, Mass. And well, she's from Jacmel originally, but she was living there, and she has a house in both places, a spiritual house, and she's also has a therapist background. And I'm a school psychologist by training, so I was like, anything goes down, my spiritual mother's a therapist. And then so I began, and she was very open in terms of how I entered the spiritual space that oftentimes wasn't traditional, but it was coming from my own indigenous background and from trainings from my grandmother. So it was very nice. So my commitment to this community was as a school psychologist, as a healer, that I began to create summer camps. Spiritual Vodou summer camps for the young people in the community, because there's Catholic, there's Christian, Protestant summer program, but there's nothing for the Pan-African indigenous population. So I started creating that within the community. I also started being a support for others that were coming into the initiation process. I also, at times during COVID, we had to take a look at doing ceremony online. So myself and two of my spiritual sisters, we began to organize introduction conversations before we even begin the ceremonies to give folks a context of the faith. I write, I publish, on the topic, particularly the Vodou summer camps. And I had the privilege of being trained by Dr. Wade Nobles, one of the founders of Black psychology, to help me develop the concept of Vodou psychology. So within, my spiritual community, I'm one of the folks that provide mental health support with a Vodou context.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing. Amazing. So many threads. It seems like there was so much alignment that happened, right? Absolutely. It was an alignment with like spiritually and professionally, right? Yes. And even down to, your hometown, that kind of converged.
As divine intervention.
Divine intervention. Yeah. So I want to ask you now, because you had mentioned that you had your son, and when you moved to Florida, you mentioned your son. So I want to know, because you work with children, right? So I want to know, is your son involved in the tradition at all, or other children like do you work with like other children in your immediate or extended family in Vodou?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because, it's like one of these religions, we don't recruit kind of thing. So I think it has to be a calling, an alignment that comes with the individual. So my son has always been exposed, in my household When I initiated, he was, I'm trying to think of how old he was. He might have been 11 or 12. So we had that conversation, but one of the things, like growing up in a Catholic family, there was expectation. So they were expecting a Catholic baptism for my son,
Okay.
and he was like the first grandchild to my mom. And I actually had a Vodou priest baptize him.
Okay.
So there was choices that had to be made. He had godparents, and his father at the time. We agreed this is what we're going to do. And I mean, that was magical within itself. And one of the things that I didn't want to impose any specific religion on him. So one of the things, when he was a young age, we committed to two things: that he was going to go to Haiti every summer until college. And then he was also going to learn meditation. Okay. So from 2 to 16, then the 17 was the COVID. From that period, he actually went to Haiti every single summer. He went to rural Haiti and spent the summers with his grandparents, and to really learn in rural Haiti to learn about the community, the Azaka and farming, and exposed to Vodou ceremonies. And then when he was 5, I found a meditation program for him. And it was guided by a Hindu tradition. And so he'd had meditation and self-realization from 5 to 12 years old. He was trained.
Oh, wow.
So his intersection of the Pan-African spiritual, and his name is very, Zion Nubian, he's Black Mountain. So he got, I remember he was like, I know what Nubian means. He came home, they did a chapter on Nubia at school. So he had like a Pan-African consciousness.
Okay.
And very young, he would look at people and read their chakras and say, oh, there's a light around this person. So he was very attuned with talking with spirit, with ancestors. He was like, I had a conversation with God last night. This is what we talked about.
Oh, wow.
And he was doing drawings and that sort of thing. So for me, I wanted him to have a spiritual consciousness. And he got dreads, his whole life, naturally, so he basically was, and his father was an artist that did a lot of spiritual depictions. So he was, impregnated with the ideology of Pan-African consciousness. So it wasn't necessarily religious, but it was like on a pathway of how do you create a connection with yourself and the cosmos? Because for me, the Loas and Orishas are also cosmic energies.
My goodness. I tell you, that child. What a beautiful, beautiful upbringing, right? Yeah. I mean, nothing is all roses, I know, but
Yeah, the teenage years, he's 20 now, he's adulting. But I see the difference, because he's the only grandkid that speaks Creole fluently. He speaks Creole better than me. He spent more consistent time there,
Right, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And developing the space to develop that personal relationship.
Yes.
Which so much of voodoo is about.
Yes.
There are the rituals. Yes, there's the group rituals, but there's that personal alignment, that personal relationship.
Yeah.
And so and who knows, maybe he'll gravitate towards it. We'll see. We'll see.
He has questions. He always has questions, particularly because his dad lives in Haiti. So they've gone to ceremonies together. And
okay.
Stuff.
Yeah. Can't wait to see, right? what he does with the gift of his life.
Yeah.
Now, so the next question, we mentioned creativity a lot, right? Like that you did drawings, that your son did drawings, that your son's father is an artist. And so I want to ask you formally, like, how does faith, or how has faith influenced your own creativity and artistic expression, right? Well, what have you been inspired to do creatively as a foundation of your faith?
Yeah, I think some of us are born into different faiths, and some of us are chosen. And, we fundamentally believe that there's this greater energy that comes and finds, the practitioners where it's supposed to be. So, I was having writer's block in my doc program, and it was like a struggle. And then I didn't, even though, my partner at the time was an artist, I didn't draw, that wasn't my thing. And then I just started creating images. And I remember, there was a family friend that came who actually was a voodoo priest working in Finland. There was this program where there was a group of people praying for the world, and he was the voodoo representative, and they lived together for 5 years in Finland. But so he was at my house visiting, and he was just like, you know what these drawings are? And I honestly was like, no. He's like, you're lying. And then, I started studying, and then these drawings were actually images and representations of different laws.
What?
Yes, and I did not know. And like for 2 years, I kept on doing these drawings, and like I had a book, and then I started putting the drawings into my papers at Harvard. And so the professors would be like, okay, to the point where my chair, who Wendy Luttrell, like, I would get stuck, and she said, go draw. So my dissertation outline was a series of drawings. And I interpreted, and it was all about, this consciousness of what is education. And like I would constantly put, like, my theory of education was it had to be healing and loving. That was the healing context of education. So I had an education program with this very psychology background. So the spirits chose me. And even now, like, when I am working with my students, I always try to integrate a creative aspect, because for me, creativity is the closest thing to creator itself. It's in the creator creativity. Right. So we have to understand the creator that exists within us. And it's this teaching that something can come out of nothing, and it's always good. When you put yourself and your intention into it. So my summer programs, all of them for youth, have to have artistic expression. So every week we have a different form of artistic expression, and they have to read, they have to write, and they have to express what they learned through an artistic modality.
My goodness. Ooh, baby, I'm sitting here, I'm getting chills. I mean, you just said a whole word, and what stuck out to me, a lot of things, a lot of good gems in there, but that you're theorizing the purpose of education. And both of us are in education, both of us are educators. So you're my spiritual sister. I always tell people you're my academic big sister. Right? Because of course, Dr. Wendy Luttrell was the chair of your dissertation at Harvard, and she was then the chair of my dissertation, at the CUNY Graduate Center.
So we have an academic mama in common.
Right? We have the same academic mommy. And what kind of a woman did God choose to have two mambos?
I know she told me she was gonna get me out. She let me draw. She let me do my thing in class, just rant and rave. She's like, okay, you done? She gave me permission. She gave me permission to be me.
Yes. And we want to honor her for that. We want to say her name and honor you, Dr. Wendy Luttrell, for nurturing us and for respecting us and giving us that space to do what we needed to do. But this theory of education, we need this message that education is to be healing and loving. Education must be healing and loving. Absolutely. Education must be healing and loving.
Absolutely. And I have the picture to show. The model is images of Haitian lois, Dambala Wedo, encased with Esli Danto and Simbi the Hill.
Okay. So that's another publication. We're gonna talk about that. Because I went, right? We need to see that in print.
We ready?
We need to see that one in print. We're gonna talk. because the world needs it.
Yes.
We're grateful for you. We're thankful for you. And, you know, I guess, you know, I want to start with the next question is that, what are some of your favorite memories? You've given us so many gems, but I wonder if there are some other specific memories that come to mind, favorite memories about practicing your faith, but in the particular area where you live now. Right? Like, what is it about being in Davie, Florida, like that rootedness in Davie, Florida, in Southern Florida, right? What is it about practicing voodoo, practicing Pan-African consciousness-inspired spirituality in that particular space? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, South Florida, you know, has like the largest Haitian community in the US. So like, that's why I came here. I didn't have a job. I didn't have an apartment. I just packed my car, my diploma, because I wanted to be in the space with the populace, right?
Wait a minute. See,
girl,
every time we talk, I find out something. Wait a minute.
My Haitian mama thought I was crazy.
I thought you moved to Florida because of the job.
No, I wanted to be closer to Haiti, and I wanted to be with the largest population that I could be of service. And so, believe it or not, I graduated with honors, a dissertation award, all of this, but the institution didn't teach me how to find a job. So I thought I could just come down here. I came from a single mom, you know, working class. I thought I could just find a job. I didn't understand. So, but I did come here, you know, I saved and I came here. I didn't have a job. I didn't have an apartment, didn't have anything. I figured spirit of work it out, and spirit did.
Oh my goodness, that is just fantastic. That is just fantastic. So you got here. Yeah. And what was it like?
You know, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I grew up in Boston pretty much my entire life. So it was the complete opposite of Boston with nice weather. So it took me like, you know, for 3 months, I was like, whoa, this is a strange place. It was very different. It took me 3 years to adjust. And in 3 years, you know, I made an effort to begin to, you know, understand the community. And I found the Haitian community. And because I was living a little bit, because I had never really been to Florida before. So I came once for a wedding, you know, once to stay with a friend for a week. So I didn't know Florida. I assumed it was South Florida with all of these different communities, Latin communities, Caribbean communities, but it was more segregated than Boston, extreme segregation. I spent the first 3 months just going to schools and to see the disparity in books and supplies. And so, because, you know, as a Vodouyizan, you have to commit to a life of service. You don't only serve the loi, you must serve the loi within people. You must serve the loi energy within the community. You must serve the loi energy within yourself. What is my contribution? You know, your laku is the world. Your kombit, the work you do should serve the community. So, so it was interesting because my first inception was the young people. So I started like volunteering with young people, you know, going to different service agencies and that sort of thing. And so then I said, I'm going to create a program. So I had a 7-year program for Haitian youth, 100 kids every summer for 7 weeks, with this idea of creating this Vodou curriculum that addressed the self, interpersonal and communal development within context, with the laku framework. So when I was with the kids, then I began to meet the parents. And the parents, you know, a lot of Christian conservative parents, but they just saw the kids' grades going up, behavior going up. So they did not question my methodologies. They were like, whatever. And then after that, I decided that, you know, I was going to begin to search for the Vodou community and be active in the Vodou community. So I started meeting like individual Vodouyizan, you know, that someone would recommend, would have conversations. And at one point I decided, because there was such a stigma as well. Like it was weird because it's like a world within a world. Everybody knows this is going down, but it was stigmatized. And so I actually did a lecture series on demystifying Haitian Vodou in South Florida. invited speakers to come. It was a 3-day event looking at different components. And that's when I was entrenched. So the Vodouyizan came out, supporters came out, non-Vodouyizan came out, but it was mostly Pan-African communities that came out. And so they began to know me and committed to my work, supporting, my nonprofit. And then I was getting invitations to speak.
Oh, wow. Wow. That is fantastic. So that community, you started with the youth, you started with the service. You actually started with practicing your faith through service.
Yes, absolutely.
So you started with that, right? And then that drew in, that helped you to create community and to draw in the community. All right. So I wonder, are there any specific places, right, that are important to your worship, right? Any physical locations that are, in that area or beyond Southern Florida that are especially important to your worship practice?
I mean, it's interesting because when I turned 40, I was like, I'm going to have a shrine in my house. So I had one of the parents in my program, he was an engineer. He actually literally built a wall and split my garage. So I actually have this meditation still space in my home.
Oh, okay.
And so that's important. And the way I even found my space was, spectacular. It was spirit that gifted it to me. So I think where we live should always be sacred. We should always feel like we're communing with ancestor and spirit. And, at one stage I was here, I met a Manbo Ingrid, and she had a Vodou Holistic Center for several years. And we did some programming together. So that was a communal space to educate. And that was really nice. And I've gone to a couple of, Vodou fetes, in South Florida so I got to meet, different houses.
Okay.
And some of the things that they do. And one of the things that I find is folks in their 20s and 30s are really interested, coming, I think the Black Lives Matter, the murder of Mr. George Floyd brought us pause to really reflect on who we are, because we were recognized globally that these people are powerful. These people deserve respect. These people deserve their own history. So, one of the things I'm even advising a undergraduate club at my university, and they call themselves magical individuals spiritually trained.
What?
Missed. And I don't know, and they said you were the only professor in this entire university that had spiritual in your bio.
Oh.
So now they made my academic space legit for me.
Wow. Wow. What a blessing. And we've come full circle.
Absolutely.
Right? You were in these spaces trying to find a way, finding spirit, but spirit was always there.
Always there, yes.
Spirit was always there. And then now, it's the younger folk who were, the fact that you were there, God bless you. You're the only one that had spiritual in your bio.
Yeah.
You're the only one who they knew whom they could speak to.
Yeah.
They could talk about it. So we need you, right? We need your representation. We need to be in these institutions because we are there. Our children are there. They're looking for us.
No, it's interesting. I have a colleague, finally met a colleague, she is an Iya priestess. We actually last week, the first time we did a presentation on the water laws and orishas on campus for the entire campus.
Yeah, I think I remember that. I think I remember seeing
that. Yeah. So we had a big community event because one of the things our responsibility is to create Laku everywhere. So we did a big community event in June for 3 days, looking at water conservation, and education through the lens of the Loa and Orishas. And we just did a presentation on campus for the entire campus last week.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Yes, I remember when that presentation happened earlier and then you came back to it. Awesome. So you've been communing with them all year.
Oh, and it was tough because there was some undergraduate students that were crying, you know, after the event, because they're like, now I see myself.
Look at that.
It was powerful. So we're going to continue the service.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, you've given us just so much, right? And I pray that everyone who sees this video, who listens to your words, your story, that they are blessed by it. You know, I know that I am, that they learn from it, that they look up, you know, that they look up the references that you had, that they look you up, right? They find your websites, they find out more about the work that you're doing, and that it will inspire them to also take action and to really live their faith proudly and in service of their community, in service of mankind. So I want to know, like, is there anything else that you'd like to share before we close? Anything else you'd like to share or do or say?
Well, I mean, you know, I thank you for this opportunity. I think this is our time. I think those of African descent, you know, we were the first for a reason. And we hold the sound, the vibration of creation on the planet. And that echo is in our indigenous practices. So, you know, I encourage everyone, regardless of your faith, to know that, you know, the Pan-African lens is essential, and it's been dormant, it's been suppressed, and there must be a reason why. So it's our time now to gain the tenets of what the first peoples on this planet wanted us to know.
Aye, Bobo.
Aye, Bobo.